Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The big word, reprints. We hear it all the time. I get asked the question all the time, do you think this will get reprinted? Do you think that'll get reprinted? Do you think Evolving Skies booster boxes are going to get reprinted? The fact of the matter is, no one really knows until it essentially becomes public knowledge. Now, what we do have public knowledge of, and even the start of it, is 3 reprints. So I'm going to talk you through those in a second, but I want to talk through a little story. And I think so many industries are really similar in that the car industry that I work in is actually quite similar to Pokemon when it comes to ordering stock, or the Pokemon trading card game, I should say. So what generally happens, and I'll talk you through a bit of a story in Pokemon cards in a second, but first with cars. If there's a really sought after car, what will happen is eventually the manufacturer will take this sort of position on that car. So what normally happens is, well, geez, prior to COVID, we just had hundreds of cars out the back in stock, and someone orders one, well, which color do you want it in? And you can come pick it up next week. Since then, obviously, things have been harder to get, and quite often we need to put an order into the manufacturer and wait in the queue until that order comes through. When it gets even stricter than that, what will happen is it goes to this sort of allocation policy where the manufacturer will say, we're only getting this many into the country. Australia, of course, I'm talking about. We're only getting this many into the country, and we're going to allocate them to dealerships based on how many we get, and that's all you're getting. So you can't even really put an order into us. You can keep your orders there, and then you'll have to match those orders, that allocation, I should say, up to your orders in any way you see fit. And something really similar has sort of happened in the Pokemon world, because I suppose, especially if you've come into the hobby just recently, in the past it was always, stock was plentiful. What you'd essentially do is, as a store, so to speak, to the best of my knowledge, you'd put in an order and basically pick however many you want. And if that supply ends up, say you ordered 150 booster boxes for your shop, once that order dries up, if you want more of something, say XY Evolutions or Sun and Moon Celestial Storm, whatever it might be, if you want more of it, you just essentially click the button to get more. And it was not stockpiled, so to speak, but it was sitting at the company. You could order it in, sell it, much like the car industry. There was cars on grass, like for us, prior to COVID, there was cars on grass in Melbourne. We had cars at our store in stock. Customer comes in, buys it. If you want more, you just get more. Okay, COVID changed everything. And during sort of 2020, everything sort of changed in the Pokemon world where, stores would get basically an allocation policy, and this is how many you're getting. And once you're out, you can't really get more. Now, things have sort of changed in the last, probably since Scarlet and Violet, where if you want more, you can sort of get more. And I think some people, it's maybe caused a bit of alarm, so to speak, that supply's now plentiful. This whole rapid growth in sealed product or even singles cards, particularly sealed product though, is sort of coming to an end. I don't think people really need to be too alarmed, especially when you're investing. I really like to work off the rule of keeping it for a certain period of time, or especially keeping it until you've realized the gains that you've wanted to get. This whole idea of keeping something for 6 months or 9 months and expecting, big gains, that's just a fluke in the market. That's just golden times, so to speak. That's just, as we say in the sporting world, fill your boots up while the times are good. That's not the normal. But anyway, I don't think people need to be alarmed in any way, shape or form. And I've been saying that in a few videos recently, just because I suppose stock is becoming a bit more plentiful. I don't think you need to be alarmed at all. It's popular. It's damn popular. It's the most popular media franchise in the world. And the trading card game is the most popular TCG by a long shot. There are more Pokemon cards printed than any other TCG. So don't be stressed. We have a saying in the car world, if something's popular new, it's going to be popular secondhand. If something sells well new, it's going to sell well secondhand. And I know they're very different things because cars depreciate, and quite often Pokemon cards, especially the sealed product, will appreciate. So I don't know, the more popular it is new, sometimes the more popular it is secondhand. Now, talking about reprints, there's been 3 sets that we've got reprints on. The first one is Lost Origin. the second one is Silver Tempest, and the third one is Scarlet and Violet base. Now, while we're on reprints, particularly while we're on Lost Origin, quick little story. There's a guy that I work with, and his son loves Pokemon. I think he's about 9 years old, comes in all the time, shows me his collection. If he rips a new card, he comes in and shows me like something that he thinks is good, or he might bring in a sealed booster pack and he wants to open it with me. And just recently, his dad came in and he goes, "Is Giratina V any good? The one from Lost Origin?" And I said, "Well, which one? You're not talking about the one with all the fancy colours. We call it an alternate art." And he goes, yeah, I think that's the one. He pulled it and he thought it was a pretty good card, and I've put it straight in the sleeve. I'll bring it in tomorrow and show you. Anyway, he brings it in and he goes, and I go, "Mate, he is much luckier than I am, because I never pull anything good when I open a booster pack. If you want to pull nothing from a booster pack, get me to open it. That's a secret." But he's pulled this awesome Giratina V alt art, absolutely amazing card, and it's mint edges, mint corners, centering looks good, color and the hollow or sort of foil pattern all across the front looks really, really mint. Anyway, with the reprint coming, I said, "Look, mate," when he came in, I said, "What do you want to do? Like, this is a great card to keep in your collection. You know, when you get older, you might look back and go, wow, like, I'm so glad I kept this card." Alternatively, I said, "Look, mate, with a reprint coming, I think this card could go down in price a little bit. So I'm happy to sell it on my eBay if you want me to." And he goes, yeah, I think I'd like that, because he goes, "How much money is it?" And you know what kids are like, they don't have the best concept of money, especially when you're 9 years old. And I said, "Mate, I think at the moment I might be able to get you close to $500 for it." And he goes, "$500? So I can buy like 100 more packs?" I'm like, "Yeah, mate, if dad lets you, you can buy 100 more packs." So, that story just shows, A, that it's so cool when kids are still into Pokemon, they're excited. He would rather open another 500 packs. Don't think it would quite buy him 500, but you get what I mean. He'd rather open 500 packs than keep that card, which is cool. Either way, whatever, do what you want. But what I will do, shameless, not even self-promotion, but shameless promotion for the guy at work's son. I'll leave a link in the description to my eBay channel. I shouldn't say channel, eBay account. It's PokeOz91, so exact same as my YouTube. I've been selling cards on there for a long time. I'm not really active on there much at the moment. I sell, the odd card here and there. But if you want to help him out, if you want to have a bid on it, thanks heaps. All that money, of course, will go straight to him, and he can buy some more packs with it, which I think is really cool. But anyway, onto the reprints, particularly, and we'll start with Lost Origin while we're talking about that Giratina V. So what generally happens with a reprint, and it doesn't take, I suppose, a genius, and I certainly don't want to insult anyone's intelligence with this, but of course with a reprint there's more supply in the market. So more supply of sealed product, and therefore as that sealed product gets open, there's more supply of singles. So quite often two things will clearly happen. One, the sealed product booster box price should come down, and two, the single prices should come down. Like, I know that sounds a bit of a no-brainer, and if we look at Lost Origin, we can already see it happening. So we've got the data up on the screen here. Was sort of at its peak, and this is all in US dollars, by the way, around $160. Now it's sort of sitting around $138 a booster box for the reprint. What's interesting though here in Australia is quite often the US pricing doesn't always match up very closely to the Australian pricing, and Scarlet and Violet base is the best example of that, and we'll get to that soon. But as you can see with Lost Origin, if I jump onto eBay as well, I'll just flick it up on the screen here now. The cheapest I can find still is 270 Australian dollars, which doesn't match up with the US pricing. There is a bonus, like you can take off, as you can see on this picture, $35, which will bring it down to 235 Australian dollars, but that's still a bit dearer than what the market price sort of has it at in the US, which is a bit strange. So anyway, as you can see, the reprint clearly has made a little bit of a dip in the sealed booster box price. There's two absolute bangers from this set, of course, and I'll just flick them up on the screen here really quickly. That Aerodactyl, in fact, both of these cards, the Giratina V and the Aerodactyl V, are probably two of my favourite old arts. What happens with me and old arts from Sword and Shield is I sort of look at one and I go, man, that's a nice looking card. But then I go look at another and I go, damn, that's a nice looking card as well. So anyway, these are definitely two of my favourite old arts from the Sword and Shield block. They're both amazing artwork. I won't bother showing you prices on these yet. They haven't really been affected by the reprint yet. We've got to wait probably another few months, I think, for more of this product to be open, but we should expect to see them maybe dip a little bit. That's why I really want to sell my colleague's son's card. Geez, that's my colleague's son's card now. So, you know, he can sort of capitalize on the highest price he can sort of get at the moment and then buy himself more packs with it. Next one that's obviously copped a reprint is Silver Tempest. Now, this set hasn't even been out that long. I can remember going to a launch at a gaming store here in Australia, and we weren't actually allowed to even buy a booster box at that time. We were allowed to buy those little, well, the new booster box bundles or booster pack bundles, the one where you get 6 packs. You're allowed to buy those and rip them open, but you weren't allowed to buy yourself a box yet. So anyway, that was at its peak. It sort of rose pretty quickly, Silver Tempest, and there was talks, and this is why I think, by the way, rewinding a little bit, this is why I think sets like Lost Origin and Silver Tempest rose really quickly, is because we skipped over to Scarlet and Violet, and obviously we skipped over to a different border with a silver border versus yellow border, and a lot of people were going, well, I don't think they're ever going to print or reprint Sword and Shield again. You know, that's it. It doesn't make sense, because why would they reprint it when it's gone to silver borders now? Can the printers do both? I was always really, really skeptical of that statement. I always thought they were going to sort of reprint the last blocks of Sword and Shield. In one sense, I was sort of hoping they wouldn't, but they have. But that's why I think Silver Tempest rose so quickly, because is it a stellar set? Oh, debatable. I'm going to do I really want to wait for these reprints to hit the market before I continue on that series that I've been doing, where we're looking at or sort of scoring Sword and Shield main sets. So I will score Silver Tempest and Lost Origin, but I just want to wait for the reprint to sort of be absorbed by the market before we do that. But yeah, it did climb up to $145 really quickly, as you can see in the graph here, and currently sitting around $125. You know, so it has taken a little bit of a dip already. And on eBay Australia here, cheapest you can possibly find it is about $220, which again doesn't really align to the US pricing. And the third set that I wanted to jump in and show you, which has copped a reprint, is Scarlet and Violet Base. Now, this one has hit the singles pretty hard. So first of all, it's showing on TCG Player in the US $95. And this is the one that has the biggest discrepancy, like I was saying before, because in Australia, the cheapest one on eBay, which I'll really quickly flick up on the screen here now, is $199. I think when I bought mine, I think I got it for $185 at one stage. There was a bit of a special going, but again, that doesn't really line up with the US pricing. But as I was saying, the singles have taken a whack in this set. They took a whack really quickly. I think pull rates, you know, for Scarlet and Violet, particularly with the chase cards, those special illustration rares are a lot stronger. Like, pull rates are better than Sword and Shield. And as a result, they sort of almost stomped straight away. Like, obviously the big chase card, the Miriam, was going for big dollars to start off with, even raw, particularly at sort of pre-order time. It was going for huge dollars, as were the two new sort of ultra rares in the Maridon, however you pronounce them, but they were going for big dollars, and they've sort of stomped the Gardevoir EX again, come back down to earth really, really quickly, and this reprint's only going to hurt it more. So I'm really interested to see what happens in time with Scarlet and Violet. Obviously, we've got a reprint on base. Will we get a reprint for Paldea Evolve? We've got a chock-a-block year, like I was showing in the video before, about 6 sets coming out this year. We've got Obsidian Flames just around the corner. We've got Scarlet and Violet 151. We've got Paradox Rift from memory, I think it's going to be called, coming out in November this year. So we've got 6 sets being launched this year, 5 of which are from Scarlet and Violet, and one of which was Crown Zenith, that came out at the start of January. So 6 sets. It's a chock-a-block year. And like I was saying, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with Scarlet and Violet in terms of sealed pricing and singles pricing, because it's really evident, and I'm not going to show up any data on here, but there's plenty of guys that do talk through data pretty consistently, in that Scarlet and Violet has stronger hit rates, particularly when it comes to those special illustration rares, than Sword and Shield era did. So it's a lot easier to pull a Scarlet and Violet secret illustration rare than it was to pull a Sword and Shield alternate art. What's that going to mean for single prices long term? And what's that going to mean for sealed booster box pricing long term? it's sort of a catch-22 because on one hand, they're easy to pull, so it makes it more fun. But on the other hand, they're easy to pull, so they're a cheaper price. So it's not as exciting when you do pull it because you're not pulling like that Giratina V, which is 500 Australian dollars. You're not pulling that Umbreon V Max, which is, I don't even know what that is Australian dollars now, probably 800 or something. So it's a bit of a catch-22. Really interested to see what happens there. To summarise the whole video, reprints, eh? It's that it's that word that everyone loves to hate. For me, I guess, again, to summarise everything, don't be scared of it. Times are returning probably to sort of what they were pre-COVID times, and we're seeing it in a lot of industries. And again, I relate it to my job, the car industry. We're starting to see the pendulum sort of swing back to this position where stock's a bit more readily available. And when stock's more readily available, pricing, generally you see a bit of a decrease. When it comes to the Pokemon world, that pendulum has swung back the other way towards stock being a bit more readily available, or in this case, sets being reprinted. And I think what that's going to mean long term is it's just going to take a little bit more time for things to start appreciating. And to sum up the whole video, I just wanted to show these two sets really quickly about what I mean. So these two sets were absolutely printed into the ground during Sword and Shield. I don't think any set has been printed much more than Darkness Ablaze and Vivid Voltage, particularly when it comes to reprints. Now, these two sets just stagnated for 2.5, close to 3 years. And now, if you look at the trend line on these two graphs off TCG Player, we're finally starting to see some movement up. So eventually, that's what I mean. Don't be scared. Eventually, supply will dry up. More and more will be opened, and having it as a sealed product will be a slightly rarer commodity. So don't be alarmed. Hold it. It'll be fine. And I'm really, really interested to see what happens with Scarlet and Violet short term and long term. Thanks everyone for watching. Cheers.